The ceilings are falling in and water is flowing in some homes at Holmes Apartments on Lansing's south side. 6 News visited the complex 2 weeks ago where people were complaining of a leaking roof. The management company told 6 News it would be finished by today, but little to nothing has been done. And as Kyle Macon reports from the scene tonight, there have been serious issues at that apartment complex for months.
I first arrived at Holmes Apartments in November after people called our station pleading for help. When I arrived, I found bugs, trash, and a roof that was falling apart. I spoke to management and they said that they hope to have it fixed by now. But as you can see, little progress has been made, and the ones who suffer are the people who call this place home. What is supposed to be the bedroom for someone's youngest daughter is now soaked in water, and just 2 floors above, it's even worse.
So this just happened in my kitchen.
The person living in this unit, which was recently red tagged, says she's been living not only with 1, but 2 holes in their ceiling for more than a month now. She says she contacted Simtop Management, the company that owns the apartment, the last week of January.
I have sent emails, text messages, I called, I went out as far as reaching out to the owners on Facebook and no response.
It wasn't until weeks later that she says she and everyone else at the apartment heard from Simtop.
I did get an email back saying there was going to be a ceiling repair on all the units, and that was back in February, and it never happened.
It's mid-March now, and as you can see, she's still dealing with a massive mess. The hole in Ellis's kitchen is so bad that you can see her neighbor through it. Frustrated, she has now taken matters into her own hands.
My neighbor decided to let's stuff in some clothes just for privacy to soak up water because there was no help.
I reached out to Simtop Management today, and it responded, saying the roof has not been finished because of the weather. However, it has started demolitions in damaged units and are beginning to remodel them. Simtop officials say they are offering residents in any damaged apartments an opportunity to move into a new unit. But Alice has a message for the company.
This all could have been prevented way back when it happened. And if you're going to have a property, make it livable. Doesn't have to be the best, but just make it livable. That's all we ask of.
Simtop says construction on the roof is expected to be finished by next week.
Siobhan, many people who call this place home woke up to signs on their doors telling them to evacuate immediately. If you guys seen our story on Monday, you know that many residents here have holes in their ceilings and deplorable conditions in their apartments. But now today, the city has finally stepped in and shut everything down.
You gave us less than 24 hours to get out.
15 out of 19 units at Holmes Apartments, most of them red tagged, were occupied by families until tonight.
It's an inconvenience to me.
This morning, April Abernathy and many of her neighbors saw these notes ordering them to vacate the premises and drop off their keys.
Trying to pack my things up, and the ceiling, it caved in.
You can't close the place down and say it wasn't safe and clean and then not provide safe haven.
The city's code compliance office gave the order saying conditions here are deplorable and unsafe.
Then you should have done something back then and not waited.
Today, contractors could be seen trying to fix the roofing issue.
Yeah.
But now it's too late. Holmes Apartments is owned by these guys at Simtop Management. They refused to go on camera, but sent us a statement saying residents were contacted and offered the opportunity to move in newer units on different property. Angela Wlns says she found out 5 minutes before our interview.
After being in a homeless shelter for 2.5 years, moving into these apartments and then finding out, oh, it's not even a safe place for us to live.
Barb Kimmel with the city's code compliance was also at the scene today.
Nobody wants to remove someone. We have a duty to protect the safety and health of the residents.
City Council member Adam Hussan says he's known about the conditions for a while. He's been vocal online about wanting to help.
And so we're also calling on our state legislators moving forward and actually requiring property owners like this Brad Simtop to be on the hook financially.
People like Patrick say it's hard enough living in lower income housing. Now he needs to find a new place on short notice.
You want this building closed down and red tagged all the way through? Move us.
Now, the city of Lansing says it is looking into several legal options against Simtop management. And as far as Simtop, they tell us that at least 8 tenants living here have been moved into different apartment units, and that it is going to take up until April to complete the roofing damage and the interior damage as well. Here for you live in Lansing, Darylyn Horn, 6 News.
All right, Darylyn, thank you. We've got another update now in the ongoing saga at Holmes Apartments on Lansing's south side. On Monday, we showed you holes in the roof and ceilings as well as other problems. Well, the city stopped by on Wednesday and red tagged the property, giving some people living there just a few hours to get out. The owners of the apartment sent residents to other properties they own, but as Kyle Macon shows us, that move might not solve their problems. Kyle?
Siobhan, people living in Holmes Apartments have been dealing with holes in their ceilings, bugs, and trash for months now. And when they arrived at their new apartments, some were greeted with a different colored tag.
You don't want to be forced to do something, and then you also don't want to lose what you've worked for so hard.
Ashley Ellis was told she had to leave her home of 2 years in less than 24 hours. After inspectors saw huge holes in her ceiling, city officials condemned her apartment building and everyone was forced to leave. She says a leasing agent from Simtop Management, the company that owns the apartment, came by telling everyone if they wanted a new unit, they had to sign a new lease.
If we did not sign the lease, we got no U-Haul help, we would not be able to go to any other properties, and we would have been forced on the streets.
Angela Wlns says she signed the lease fearing that she would be put out on the streets. Trying to be optimistic about her move, she went to look at her new unit at Pacific Apartments, only to find multiple units with pink and red tags dating back 6 months. But what scared her most was when she talked to someone who lived there.
It was a nightmare. They had bugs, they had cockroaches, they had, a few of the people there had something that would bite their skin and just start eating away on the inside of their body.
To make matters worse, Wlns says she talked to a person who works with the federal program that assists low-income families with housing. And that person told her they're unsure if they'll be able to help with the rent there because of the leasing company's track record.
They don't know, being these units have been red tagged. They told me I did not have to re-sign the lease. Section 8's not sure if they are going to be approving and being able to let us, the units get paid for, so we all maybe end up homeless again.
I went into Wlns' new apartment and newly renovated ones. We both agreed that they were very nice and smelled clean. But tomorrow will be the big test, as the city of Lansing will be coming out to inspect the complex to see if they can keep living there.
Simtop Management says they understand the concerns with the pink tags on the buildings, but they claim the Pacific Apartments have been ready for inspection for the last 2 months. They also said they will offer any person from Holmes Apartment a hotel room until the property passes inspection tomorrow. They also claim all people moved from Holmes will be moved into a newly renovated unit. I will continue to follow this story and let you know what happens tomorrow. Siobhan?
Thank you, Kyle. Kyle Macon was there and is here for you now with what they found. Kyle?
Siobhan, residents are still packing after the city deemed Holmes Apartments as unlivable. Today, residents were told that their moving process is far from over.
6 people from Holmes Apartments are just now getting into their new units at Pacific Apartments. But before they even finished moving in, they were told the building failed inspection and they had to leave again. But at least one person was not surprised.
I have no confidence in management to have, gotten all of their ducks in a row before relocating us to this place. So it really just kind of leaves my living situation up in the air.
Arachne Sifra lived at Holmes Apartments for 6 months before he was forced to leave. He says this is what he has come to expect from Simtop Management, the company that owns the apartments. He claims whenever he reached out for help, no one ever came.
It made me, kind of apprehensive to call anytime there was something wrong with the unit because I knew it would get dismissed or I would get, talked down to.
Code enforcement officers did no progress on the property at Pacific Apartments as most of the units being newly renovated. But they say the building failed to comply with a few things, such as broken windows, securing plumbing panel covers, and replacing some light bulbs. Until that is done, the city says it will put 6 people up in hotels for the weekend.
Then we will be working with the COC to find permanent, safe housing for these residents.
But getting a hotel doesn't work for Sifra because, like many people, he has pets.
It really just leaves myself and my cats in the lurch for a place to stay in the interim while all of this gets sorted out.
SimTop management has the weekend to get the building at Pacific Apartments up to code. If not, the building will stay pink tagged. And if that happens, the city and the company figure 6 people will be left without a place to stay.
SimTop management says they apologize for the situation and that some of the home's apartments renters have been told they're happy to be living in a newer unit. SimTop says the reasons for the pink tags at Pacific are minor and that they have maintenance teams working to bring the building up to code as quickly as possible. The city will re-inspect that property on Monday, and I'll be there and I'll let you know what they find. Siobhan?
Here for you with 6 News at 6.
After a series of safety issues at Lansing Apartments, there's a shakeup at City Hall. It's our top story tonight at 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones.
And I'm Siobhan Klepfer. 6 News has been telling you about the ongoing saga of several apartments here in Lansing.
It's a story you've seen only on 6 News, and we've been detailing a bunch of apartment complexes with a bunch of problems.
That's right. There's the Autumn Ridge Apartments, where not only are some of the units red tagged, deemed as unlivable, the city says the place has not had a valid rental license for years.
And then there's the building at the Holmes Apartments, where residents dealt with trash, bugs, and a roof that was falling apart. Now, last week, after 6 News covered the story, the city condemned the unit and forced everyone to leave.
But when residents arrived at their replacement apartments, they found them pink tagged, and they were forced to leave again.
After 6 News began to show you some of the conditions, outrage spread from residents of those apartments to members of the Lansing City Council.
And tonight we have learned of a change at City Hall. The head of Lansing's code enforcement has just stepped down after a decade on the job.
Kyle Macon is here for you now with what we know. Kyle?
Siobhan, Sherry, Scott Sanford has retired after 13 years as manager of Lansing's Code Enforcement Office. The mayor's office says he submitted his retirement a few weeks ago after 23 years of service with the city. Now, we weren't given a reason for his retirement, but over the weekend, someone posted on Facebook that code enforcement seemed to be red tagging buildings with a sense of urgency. Then Lansing City Council member Adam Hussein commented, saying, quote, "One of the biggest issues was that we had to get rid of a few folks at the top to allow for meaningful change." And then he said, quote, "Those individuals are gone and meaningful change is coming. I spoke to a different city council member who says the time for waiting is over and that the city needs to act now."
I think that we have spent years of inaction on this issue, and that's how we've ended up with, last count, 706 red tagged homes. The city has to look at this as a crisis, and I hope that the administration sees this as a crisis. In my conversations with the acting EDP director Friday, when we were at the inspection of this property, I have no doubt in my mind that she sees this as a crisis, and she's not playing around. And City Council, I can't speak for them as a whole, but I can tell you this, that in my conversations with other City Council members, none of us are playing this game anymore.
I just want to clarify that the person that made that post was City Council member Adam Hussein. The city spokesperson says that we still haven't appointed a replacement for the position at Code Enforcement, but I will continue to stay on the story and keep you updated when I hear more. Sherry, Siobhan, back to you.
Politics from council down, it just got to the point where I didn't want to do it anymore.
The City of Lansing's former manager for code enforcement is sharing his thoughts on the decision to step down. It's our top story at 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Siobhan Klepfer.
And I'm Sherry Jones. We've shown you plenty of rental properties here at 6 News deemed unlivable by the city. And as the saga continues, the head of the department, Scott Sanford, made the choice to retire.
That's right. That news comes as units at the
Autumn Ridge Apartments were red tagged, and the city accuses the owners of not having the proper licensing for years. They, however, dispute that claim. And over at the Holmes Apartments, a building was condemned by the city as tenants dealt with trash, bugs, and other issues. Some of those residents were moved to the Pacific Apartments on Kalamazoo Street, but pink tags have gone up there as well.
McCoy Scribner spoke with Sanford today, who says he's been thinking about retirement for a while, but issues with other city leaders ultimately led to his decision to leave sooner than expected.
And he's here for you now with what Sanford had to say. McCoy?
Well, Sherry and Siobhan, Scott Sanford had worked for the city for the last 23 years, most recently as the manager of code enforcement, but his last day was Friday. Now he's talking about the problems he left behind.
It got to the point where the politics got in the way of me being able to do my job.
Sanford says he did the best he could with the staff and resources he had.
You have roughly 29,000 rental properties in the city of Lansing when you have 11 code officers. It's tough.
Many units in the city are red tagged, considered unlivable, and yet landlords continue to rent them out.
Again, we're not police officers. We can't stop them. But then again, you can't go out and displace 860 units.
As for his sudden retirement, he says it all started last year.
I said something in a meeting in August that I probably shouldn't have said, okay? And I only said it once in a closed-door meeting with my staff, but somehow it got to city council.
After an investigation, council president Carol Wood wanted to prevent Sanford from coming to any meetings.
She basically said that if I was going to continue to do my job and go to the council meetings as I had and represent my office, that she wasn't going to hold a meeting the rest of the year. So they prevented me from doing my job.
We felt the culture that he in a leadership with code compliance was detrimental to working with council. Absolutely stand by that decision. And his choice to retire was his choice to retire.
Sanford says he had disagreements with other leaders at City Hall and wishes he could have spent more time focusing on the issues at hand.
I've got an interim director that wouldn't listen to me, and a city council that, was more interested in playing politics than they are, actually addressing the problem.
And I reached out to the interim director of economic development and planning for comment, but have not heard back at this time.
Well, after failing to bring their apartments up to code time and time again, one company is right now being sued by the city of Lansing.
6 News has been telling you for months about the ongoing saga with Simtab Management. It's a company that owns several apartment complexes in Lansing.
And now the city is taking the company to court. Our Kyle Macon spoke to the city attorney. He's here for you now with what the lawsuit says. Kyle?
Sherry, Siobhan, a week ago, people at Holmes Apartments were forced to leave after city officials red tagged the building, which means it's not fit for anyone to live in. And then when residents arrived to the replacement property, they found it was pink tagged and they were forced to leave again. Now those people are stuck in hotels, and to the chagrin of local officials, the city of Lansing is stuck with the bill.
Get the repairs done, have the city come in, inspect, do everything, and let's go home.
Ashley Ellis is one of the 6 people stuck in hotels as the city and Simtab Management try to figure out a place for them to stay. Ellis, who has been at the hotel since Friday, says she had no idea that her landlords weren't paying for the bill.
You didn't take proper precautions and didn't answer things, and now to find this out, that you're not paying for our stay, for our inconveniences, it just shows your character, your person.
Not only are people stuck in these hotels for the foreseeable future, Ellis says they have received no help from Simtab when it comes to food. But thanks to government-funded programs, they won't go hungry.
Advent House has provided Uber rides, food for us. Anything we need, we can reach out to the Advent House.
And because the city is covering the bills for Simtab, that is where the lawsuit comes in.
Asking for recovery of damages, so that we can cover the cost of displacement of the tenants and any other work that goes on there. So we want that injunction, and we want the place padlocked, and we want the place repaired.
The city is asking for at least $25,000. The city attorney says the lawsuit should serve as a warning to any bad landlords in Lansing.
We decided in this case that we need to send a message, because this is a big problem throughout the city. So we are now going to utilize the circuit court. So yes, the residents can expect us to be very aggressive on red tag properties.
I reached out to Simtab Management for a response to the lawsuit, but haven't heard nothing back. But in the past, they have apologized for the issues and said they're working around the clock to fix the problems. The Lansing City Council has planned a special meeting on Monday to discuss red tag properties here in Lansing.
6 News has been telling you about issues with Autumn Ridge apartments and townhomes for years now. The city has said the complex has operated without a valid renter's license since 2017.
The whole complex is also pink tagged or red tagged, and those tags prompted Autumn Ridge to sue the city.
Yes, but while the court case is over, the controversy continues.
Kyle Macon spoke with both sides and a resident who is caught in the middle of it all. Kyle?
Sherry Siobhan, in 2020, the owners of Autumn Ridge filed a state lawsuit saying the violations found by code enforcement were improper. This sparked a 3-year legal battle. The mess was sorted out in courts, but lots of the people are still living in limbo.
I mean, you should not be waking up looking around before you touch the ground to see bed bugs, roaches, or rats.
Rosalind Williams describes what it was like living at Autumn Ridge Apartments for the last 7 years. Ultimately, the city red tagged her townhome last month and she was forced to leave.
My furnace has gone out. It needs to be repaired and inspected by a certified mechanic, which they have not done.
Her case is one of 26 red tags and 22 violations at Autumn Ridge. Autumn Ridge disputes the city's code violations, filing suit in 2020 saying the city overstepped its bounds. Then 6 months later, Autumn Ridge took the case to federal court, claiming the city was targeting the owner and its employees.
The owner of the property, Sean Stafford, sued the city as well as the code officer personally, Dave Klein, alleging that the practices of the code enforcement office were discriminatory based upon race.
O'Boyle says the state lawsuit was put on hold as the federal one started going to court. Then the city asked for both lawsuits to be dismissed in 2022.
And that was actually granted by the federal court. They dismissed all of the claims that were raised. There was no finding of any racial discrimination or any wrongdoing by the city.
But the saga continues. Autumn Ridge is now appealing its code violations through the city. All this time, the city says the complex continues to rent out apartments, even though they don't have a rental certificate. Meanwhile, Williams is stuck in a hotel until Autumn Ridge replaces her furnace. She says that no one from Autumn Ridge reached out to help, and instead, she's been paying everything out of her own pocket.
Between meals, having to go purchase clothes, toiletries, and I'm about at $5,000.
I reached out to the owners of Autumn Ridge and they responded saying, quote, "We strongly disagree with any narrative that Autumn Ridge is operating without a valid renter certificate since 2017. They say this is because the rental certificate dispute was litigated and resolved last year. They also say Autumn Ridge is in compliance with the city's rental certification process and fully expects a renewal certificates to be issued once all legitimate items identified in the recent relevance inspections are complete." But when we followed up with them and asked them directly if they have a rental certification at this moment, they did not respond.